Hey guys, thanks for joining for episode of Learn to Play Games. My name is Lance, and today we're going to take a look at an expansion to Giant Killer Robots Heavy Hitters, which is the Urban Wasteland expansion. This one is going to add a couple of new features. You're going to have the Big Little Buddy included, and sentry guns that you can place on buildings to guard them and do all kinds of damage to your enemies. So in the video, I'm going to show you guys what's included in the box, as well as show you all the rules and explain all the rules to you for these two new little expansions that are included in this. As always, if you guys enjoy these videos, if you like what I do, please consider that like button and subscribing to my channel, as it helps me to continue to grow and bring these videos to you guys. And if you want to stay up to date on all the videos I put out, also considering that bell so you get notifications anytime I release new content. So let's head to the table and I'll show you what this one's all about. First off, in the Urban Wasteland expansion, you're going to receive 10 plastic buildings, which you're going to have to assemble, and they come in 3 different sizes. Each of these buildings has 2 sections you have to glue together, and then a top that you'll put on as well. Other than that, they function the same way as the cardboard buildings from the original game. Then you're going to receive new faction tags for each of the different factions, and these have got they're just a little nicer. They have a little bit of a transparency to them and a little bit of a nicer color to them. You also receive turrets for each of the factions, and I'm going to go through the rules for these a little bit later in the video. Then we have the model for the Big Little Buddy, and this guy is going to function just like your heavy hitters, and I'll cover all the rules for him as well in a little bit. Then you're also going to receive some new cards. You'll have a new card for each faction for the sentry guns. You'll receive the Big Little Buddy card, as well as his 3 different weapon cards. And then there's also 4 new sponsor cards, which is one of the ways you'll be able to get the Big Little Buddy. Finally, you're also going to receive tops for your buildings, which will just simply lock right on the top of there. And in this set, they don't really have any rules. They're just there for aesthetic reasons, but you can home brew your own rules or make different things for them as well. Whatever you want to do, and they just add some little flair to the buildings. Finally, you'll receive the 2 rule books and some tags that you'll be able to place on the buildings and customize them however you want. The first set of rules we're going to look at are for these sentry guns. So the first change is during setup, each player will receive 3 sentry guns of their color and their sentry gun card that will go next to the rest of their support unit cards. The next change is combat. So sentry guns are going to work like the rest of your secondary units. You'll deploy their card into the firing line, and they usually will have very high numbers, so they'll be one of the first cards to be resolved. When you resolve a sentry gun, it is going to auto hit whatever unit is within its range. So sentry guns have a range of 1 to 2, and they're going to have a firing arc just like the heavy hitter. So they'll only be able to target the space in front of them and both sides. So for example, with our orange one here, it can target any of these 3 spaces, and then any of these 3 spaces going out, including this one here and all those. And each unit that's within their firing arc, so let's go ahead and say that both of our units are here. Both of these units are going to be hit by both of the sentry guns as they're within range. From there, then the sentry gun auto hits and will do 1 damage to each unit that is hit. Now the units will get their armor saves as normal, so with our heavy hitter, he would roll 2 dice, 1 for each sentry gun, and he failed both of his rolls, so he'll take 2 damage. And then our other unit will roll, and again he took 2 damage as well. And the last change is going to come during the tagging phase. So normally when you are next to a building, you'll get to tag it by placing one of your tags in that building slot next to the location that you're at. With the sentry guns now, you have an option. You can choose to either tag a building with a regular tag, or if you have a sentry gun remaining, then you can tag the building with that. Now the one big thing is, if you tag a building with a sentry gun, then you will not get to draw a sponsor card for that building, no matter how many times you've tagged that building. Well, let's go ahead and say that our secondary unit was over here next to the building as well, and he chose to tag it with a regular tag. Even in that situation, since we did place 1 sentry gun, we will not get to draw a sponsor card. You must tag all of your tags with a building as regular tags in order to draw a sponsor card for that turn. Now the other thing is over tagging. If a unit survives and it is during the tagging phase, and they're next to a spot that has an enemy sentry gun, they can over tag that sentry gun to remove it. And again, they would have that same decision whether to replace it with a regular tag of theirs or a sentry gun of theirs if they have it. Now each player has 3 sentry guns, so that is the maximum number of sentry guns that can be deployed. And the only ways to remove sentry guns are, again, to either overtag by removing it, or when a building is demolished, in which case then that'll also be removed. And you'll never be able to place a sentry gun on a demolished building's base to tag it. The other set of rules we're going to look at are for the Big Little Buddy. So the first thing, during setup, you're going to place the Big Little Buddy miniature out in the center of the battlefield. Then you can also place his battle card and his 3 different weapon cards off to the side. And then finally, you'll go ahead and grab his 5 sponsor cards and shuffle them in with the rest of the sponsor deck. In order to activate the Big Little Buddy, the first player during the deploy phase to play a sponsor card that will deploy the Big Little Buddy will gain control of him, and then he'll discard that sponsor card. And he'll also place a tag in the front of the Big Little Buddy to show that he has control of him. So let's go ahead and say, for example, that our orange player here had played the Big Little Buddy sponsor card. From there, he's going to go ahead and place the his tag in the Big Little Buddy to show that he has control of him, and then he'll also gain the Big Little Buddy cards and place those off in front of him as well. The one other important thing to note with this is that players only ever control the Big Little Buddy until the end of the combat phase in the current round. Therefore, he cannot tag buildings, and at the end of each combat phase, he is going to be removed from the battlefield and will reappear in the center of the battlefield during each reset phase. Moving Big Little Buddy is going to work just like the other units. Once all players have had a chance to move their heavy hitter, the player controlling the Big Little Buddy can move and rotate him as they choose. Once the Big Little Buddy has had a chance to move, players then will move their support units as normal. So there's a couple other important things with this. One is that it does not cost any energy to move, and you're going to refer to the Big Little Buddy unit card for the movement range. So with the Big Little Buddy, he can move up to 2 spaces during his turn. You can freely move through hexes occupied by the controlling faction, but cannot finish your move on the occupied hex. And you cannot move through or finish your move on a hex occupied by opposing faction units, and you cannot move through or finish your move on a hex occupied by a building, so just like any of the other units that follow those rules. And then if Big Little Buddy is not controlled by anyone, all players can move through him freely, but cannot end movement on his hex. Heavy hitters cannot displace him either. During combat, Big Little Buddy is going to work just like any other heavy hitter. He's going to have a front-facing arc and a rear-facing arc, which are the back 3 spaces. And when a player controls the Big Little Buddy, during the combat phase, he's going to choose one of his weapon cards to deploy with the rest of his firing line. Now, with these, you want to keep these hidden from other players, so pull these up into your hand before you make your selection so the other players don't know which card you've selected. And whatever card you selected will go face down in your firing line, and then when revealed will be organized with the rest of them. Now, the Big Little Buddy will have a target number of 5+, just like any other heavy hitter, and will have an armor saving value of 5 as well. The one other thing I want to point out is the one weapon card of the Big Little Buddies, the Mind Mate. This card can target any hex, including a hex occupied by a building, and will do damage to the hex that is chosen and any adjacent hex to that selected hex. And it'll target both friends and enemies of that unit. Now, the Big Little Buddy can be destroyed. He has 5 hit points, and if he is destroyed by an opponent, then that player can steal 1 sponsor card from the player that controlled Big Little Buddy. If Big Little Buddy was not controlled by anybody, so if nobody had their token in his spot, then you cannot deal damage to the Big Little Buddy, and he'll just remain where he is. Again, at the end of the combat phase, the Big Little Buddy will be moved from the battlefield and will not take part in the tagging phase. And then during the redeploying phase, you're going to go ahead and redeploy the Big Little Buddy back in the center of the field to start the next round. And all his cards will be added back off to the side of the board. And you're always going to add the Big Little Buddy back to the center of the board, even if he was destroyed in a previous combat round. Well, I hope you guys found that video helpful. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And as always, thank you guys for taking the time to watch my videos and leave me feedback on them. I do really appreciate it, and I do take into account everything you guys say to try to make the best possible videos. And if you enjoyed this video, if you like what I do, please consider that like button and subscribing to my channels. It really does make a difference and will help me to continue to grow and bring these videos to you guys. So until next time, I'll see you guys later.